Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question, and it's pretty similar to the question I got 2 or 3 years ago that I did one similar on this. But it is a common kind of question that a lot of younger guys ask, and I'm going to need to approach this from a couple different directions. But he basically asked, hey, what do I do? My mom oftentimes cooks food that I can't measure the calories on. And when she does that, how am I supposed to know if I'm getting enough calories to gain muscle and get the right body composition? I've got a couple different directions I can approach this from, but let me get my places in here, relax, chill out, and let's dig into this question a little bit. All right, a lot of it's going to depend on what your age and your life goals are here. First of all, if you are still in high school or something and you're living with your mom, you need to just be worried about eating enough food. High school kids who are very active and lift weights and who are playing sports and things, very rarely, unless they're just gorging on huge amounts of food, are not really worried about gaining fat. You need to just be eating. Try to get plenty of carbs in, plenty of protein in, and you're going to be fine. You don't need to worry about micromanaging these things. Just really not a big deal. Now, if you're playing some sport where you need to make a weight class, and your parents are supportive of this, and your mother is, then fine. You need to explain to her that you need to at least get some measurements of the food so that you know what you're eating, because you have to maintain a certain weight rate range in order to be competitive in your sport, and it's just required. And tell her your coach kind of needs you to do that. And if you approach it from that way, because again, it's school-related, sport-related, might be someone trying to get a scholarship, then fine. Your parents are usually going to be understanding, so you just need to know how much food you're eating. And just explain to her you need to somewhat track your calories and food intake. So that's one thing to consider there. But if you're not competing in some sport in high school, you shouldn't be sitting around worried about micromanaging your exact body composition and everything. Meaning, if you're just trying to gain muscle, you're lifting weights, you're working out, just make sure you get plenty of food in. And if you're in doubt, get an extra serving of something. Eat an extra snack. But you need to be worried about slowly gaining weight. And you know how you can tell? You look at the scale. If you're not gaining weight every 4 or 5 weeks, you're not eating enough food. If the scale hasn't gone up a pound every month or so, and you're in high school and you're training hard and lifting weights, because you should be growing and gaining weight no matter what, if it doesn't go up a pound, you probably need to increase your food a little more. You don't need an exact calorie count, but you also don't need to be focused upon maintaining an exact body composition in high school. You have bigger things to worry about. Basically, you're at a point in your life to where you are learning some basic social skills that you're going to need for the rest of your life, and you're getting your basic education. And if you are sitting around worried about the wrong things, again, such as your body composition, instead of just getting your basic minimum education to function in our society, you're setting yourself up for all kinds of failure. And I'm not saying you need higher education. I know plenty of people with six-figure incomes who do not have a higher education, and there are statistics that show at least half of millionaires never went to college, don't have a college degree. So, that being said, I'm not talking about higher education, we're talking about basic education. Now, number two, if you're a little bit older, you could partially do what everyone else does. Most people out there have no trouble with this. I've even seen Alan Aragon talk about this quite a bit. If you know the basic ingredients in food, and you know what? You need to ask your mom about that, by the way. If you're trying to track what you're eating, without being a dick about it in any way, approach your mom and say, hey, you just kind of need to know, you want to know what her recipe is so that you can see roughly what's in the food, because you really enjoy it, and you might one day want to figure out how to cook it for yourself. Now, you're going to stand here and go, well, that seems like a lot of work. Well, if you're interested in tracking your caloric intake when you can't, then you need to be willing to put in some work. I mean, what's wrong with a little bit of work and learning something new? If you're too lazy to do that, you're too lazy to do anything else in life, so don't bother. So, that being said, ask your mom to show you the recipe. Watch her cook it so that you can see what goes into it. And tell her again, you love her, whatever mom's meatloaf or whatever it is she happens to be cooking, and you just kind of want to watch what all she puts in it and the measurements. so that you know one day, maybe years down the road when you live on your own, that you'll be able to cook her dish for yourself. She'll appreciate that. Make your mom happy. And then when you do that, you can go do your own calculations later. You can figure out how many calories are in it, and you can learn to eyeball it like everybody else does. Of course, you could also just go look up whatever the foods are and get their rough calorie content per amount. But what you need to learn to do is, again, like Alan Aragon and other people say, learn to just eyeball it and get a rough caloric count based upon the size of the food. Everyone else out there does that. Not everybody who's successful, even in physique competitive endeavors, runs around weighing everything they eat, knowing exact amounts. You know what? Because you don't even know the exact amount of calories you burn every day. You have no means, even with those little body bugs and everything else, to know exactly what you burn every day. You just have a ballpark. Your margin of error is at least 10% either direction. So you're just trying to get in the ballpark. That's all that matters. And tell if you're gaining or losing weight and how fast based upon those ballparks. So get yourself a ballpark. Now, the other thing I would ask too, if you're older as well, out of high school, and you have all these body composition and muscle gaining goals, and you're still living with your mom, because it's one thing if it's occasional your mom cooks you a meal, that's fine. But if you're still living with your mom and that's why she's cooking meals for you, I might want to suggest to you that you reevaluate your life goals a little bit. It sounds like you got more important things on your table that you need to worry about than getting your ideal body composition down. Making sure that you gain the most muscle with the least amount of fat, stuff like that. And something a lot of these guys need to see. I've known of at least one guy who is pretty much middle-aged, a serious NPC competitor who still lived with his mother. And by the way, I'm going to note, a few people will come in here and comment, but you live with your sister, your mom, or whatever. No, I haven't. I don't know where any of that came out. Just because Michael Hearn said that, there's no truth to it. I haven't lived with any members of my family in many, many, many years. So I don't know where that weird idea came from, but that's a side note because people will chime in down below. Again, everyone's done enough background checks with my addresses that they could check and see who owns any of the places I've lived in the last few years. And it had not been any member of my family owned any of those places. So that being said, you guys need to drop that silly shit. But that aside, you need to be working on, instead of focused on some sort of physique goal and perfect body composition goal, you need to be worried about getting a stable enough career and building your life to the point to where you can get out of your place and have a place of your own. Even if it means going and living with a roommate, that's fine. Live with a roommate. But living with your mother as an adult while having these obsessions with training goals, and here's the thing, it's fine if you have an obsession with a training goal or wanting to gain muscle or lose fat or whatever it happens to be that your goal is. But if living with your mother is interfering with that and it's something important to you, then you're going to find a way to go get a better job, make money, and move out and live on your own without your mother. And then the problem goes away, problem solved. But I've definitely seen some of that in the past of guys who are very, very serious hardcore bodybuilders, still single, still living with their mom. And what I would say to those people, I'm not judging them, I'm saying they're not living a complete life, and maybe they need to rethink their priorities a little bit. When they have this lifestyle that they talk about as such a major sacrifice they have to make and everything else, and they do this, they do that, but they don't even have a complete enough life because their life revolves completely around the bodybuilding thing, that they still live with their mother. And I've known of guys up into their 30s still doing this, and it's like, guys, come on. At a certain point, maybe you need to get out and be a man and live your own life and get rid of this silly bodybuilding dream until you can actually sort yourself out and be a man. Just something to think about, because I have seen cases of that. So really, brother, You've got a few different options here you can work with. Again, if you're in high school and it's for a sport, that's easy enough. Your mom will totally be on board if she's supportive at all of you in a sport. And most mothers tend to be very, very supportive of their sons, 95% of them. When they're trying to do something positive or constructive towards their future, even if it's a sport, they're going to be real supportive. That's generally what moms do, good moms do. And if not, then you know what? Just work around it and quit focusing so much on things that don't matter in your life and focus on getting your basic education and having a good social life and learning all those social skills that you're going to need later in life. Again, if you're a little bit older and it's something you do because you come see your mom several times a week, which I totally get. I used to visit my mom a lot before she passed away as an adult. At least once a week I would come by and see my mom, if not more, and spend an afternoon with her. So I get that, and in that case, get her to show you the recipe and learn to eyeball it yourself like everyone else does. And again, if you're living with your mother though still and you're an adult, maybe you need to reassess your life and reassess your priorities and what you're putting your work and effort to, because you shouldn't be putting all your efforts into some bodybuilding goal if you're still not even out of the house and still living with your mother. You're not living a complete life. You're going to be happier and better off and feel more fulfilled if you get out on your own and live your own life as a man and then worry about these other endeavors. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.